She didn't even look at me when she said it. Haley stood by the kitchen island, suitcase half-zipped, earbuds in, scrolling through her phone like the world owed her every bright thing. The light from the window caught the edges of her dyed hair. Teal this month, and for a moment, I saw the 9-year-old I used to carry on my shoulders. Back before she stopped calling me anything but Tom. Back before every gesture became something to weaponize. "You're not a dad," she said. "You're just a paycheck in the way." That was it. No raised voice. No drama. Just the clean, dull edge of contempt spoken like a fact. She didn't even pause to see if it landed. Just zipped up her suitcase and brushed past me. I stood there for a few seconds, holding a cold coffee and the kind of silence you don't recover from. That line wasn't new. Not really. Variations of it had been circling for months, maybe longer. "You're not my real father. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're just the guy Mom married." But this one wasn't just rejection. It was reduction. I wasn't even a man to her. I was a debit card. And in that moment, I made a decision so quietly, so completely, it felt like exhaling. I walked down the hall to my office, shut the door without slamming it, and sat at the desk that still smelled faintly of solder and steel wool. Opened my laptop, pulled up the portal for the NYC Summer Intensive. Logged into the airline's site. Her name, my credit card. My name, her ticket. My bank account, her future. Click. Cancel. No announcement. No warning. Just subtraction. I sent the ticket refund to Leslie, her cousin on Laura's side, the quiet one who never asked for anything. Wrote a 2-line message. Change of plans. Enjoy the city. She replied with a heart emoji and a, "Thank you, Uncle Tom." First time she ever called me that. It meant nothing, and it meant everything. The rest of the evening was routine. Laura reheated leftovers. Haley laughed in her room with the door half closed, FaceTiming the friends she wouldn't be seeing in the city this summer. I sat on the back porch with a glass of bourbon and listened to the hum of a house I no longer recognized. No one noticed anything was off. No one asked why I hadn't joined in to double-check the packing, confirm the schedule, make sure she had her passport and itinerary. For 8 years, I had played the background role flawlessly. Chauffeur, financier, silent extra in the family portrait. I didn't sleep that night. Not from rage. Not from grief. From clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes after you finally stop lying to yourself. I remembered the first time I met Haley. She was wearing a plastic tiara and clutching a half-eaten fruit roll-up. Looked me up and down like she was already calculating my worth. Laura had told me then, she just needs time. Time became months. Months became years. Every bedtime story, every science fair model, every school pickup when Laura had migraines. All of it stacked like invisible bricks between us. She climbed them like stairs to a place where I was always beneath her. I stayed. I stayed through tantrums, slammed doors, and passive-aggressive Mother's Day breakfasts where I wasn't mentioned in a single card. I stayed when Sean, her little brother, called me Dad once by accident, and she made fun of him for a week. I stayed through Laura's silences, through every time she let the kids rewrite the rules because they were still adjusting. 8 years. Every bill in my name. Every inch of that house rebuilt with my hands. Literally. I rewired the basement myself. Retiled the bathroom after Sean flooded it. Spent 3 weekends installing central air because Laura said Haley was getting nosebleeds from the heat. All of it. For them. For her. And now, I was just a paycheck in the way. The morning of the flight, I didn't go with them. Laura didn't ask why. She kissed my cheek on autopilot, grabbed the car keys, and left with Haley, who didn't even glance in my direction. Maybe they thought I'd follow later. Maybe they assumed I'd already taken care of the check-in. They were halfway to the airport when Laura called me. The panic in her voice was instant. There's an issue," she said. "They can't find the reservation." I didn't even blink. "Because there isn't one." "What?" "I canceled it. Program, ticket, all of it." Silence. "You're joking." "No. Tom. I'm done paying for people who treat me like an obstacle." That was the last sentence I said before hanging up. Not out of spite. Out of mercy. For myself, the house was quiet when they returned. No shouting, no demands, just door slams and silence. Sean avoided eye contact. Laura stayed in her room most of the day. Haley dropped the watch I'd given her on her 13th birthday by the front door. The one engraved with her initials. The one I saved for weeks to afford. It was face down in the dust like a lost coin. I left it there for 2 days. That's how long it took her to realize this wasn't a bluff. That I wasn't going to swoop in and offer a backup plan. That her summer had died at the gate, and I had killed it with one click. Not because I wanted to hurt her, because I was done being hurt in silence. I didn't come to the door when they got back. I stayed in my office, curtains drawn, blue light of the monitor flickering across my face. From the hallway, I could hear footsteps. Laura's heavy tread, Haley's short, clipped ones. The kind that come from trying to walk off shame. Sean shuffled behind them, probably confused, maybe afraid to ask what had gone wrong. I didn't care. I'd already made the clean break. That morning, while Haley was still sleeping off the disappointment, I called the cabin rental up in Shenandoah. Booked a week for myself. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, firewood stacked high, no Wi-Fi. Just silence and space. Something I hadn't tasted in years. The house buzzed like a broken fridge that afternoon. Low and aimless. Laura didn't say a word to me. She passed through the kitchen, poured herself wine at 2 p.m. like it was water, and retreated. Haley didn't slam her door this time. Just closed it like someone ending a conversation they couldn't win. 2 years ago, I'd have gone after her. Asked what she meant by it. Tried to fix it. Now, I sat in my chair and let the silence settle like dust. It wasn't the sentence itself that broke me. I've been called worse. On job sites, in bar fights. What shattered me was that she didn't even think it was cruel. It was just policy. A line she'd rehearsed and decided was overdue. Like I'd been holding up progress by existing. The night before the flight, I overheard her whispering in her room. Thin walls. Always have been. She was on the phone with one of her friends, Emily or Jade, someone she gossiped with. I heard her say, "He's not a dad. He's just the sponsor who won't stay in his lane." The girl on the other end laughed. Haley laughed too. I didn't laugh. That night, after Laura went to bed, I logged into the education portal. Clicked, cancel enrollment. No refund, too close to the start date. Didn't matter. Losing the money stung less than letting her believe it was still hers. Next stop was Delta. Found the confirmation email. Pulled up the ticket, sold it through a third-party reseller. Less than what I paid. Again, didn't matter. Leslie got the seat. She messaged Laura to say thank you. Laura messaged me to ask what she was talking about. I didn't respond. By the time they were halfway to Norfolk Airport the next morning, my name was still on the original payment records, but nowhere on the passenger list. Haley approached the kiosk like a queen claiming her throne. The kiosk disagreed. Reservation not found. I imagine she thought it was a system error. That someone had messed up. That maybe she could pout or flash her ID and things would sort themselves. That's how it usually went. But not this time. Laura's call came through while I was in the garage. I let it ring 4 times before I picked up. There's something wrong with the reservation, she said. No, there isn't. What? I canceled it. The silence stretched too long. Long enough for me to hear background noise on her end, the automated gate voice, the click of Haley's suitcase wheels. You canceled it? She whispered. Like she didn't believe the words even as she said them. Yes. But why? Because I'm done paying for people who treat me like a burden. Another silence. Shorter this time. Tighter. Then, you can't just. I did. I ended the call. Didn't slam the phone, didn't scream. Just tapped the screen and went back to organizing my tools. I hadn't felt that steady in years. When they came home, the house didn't explode. It imploded. Sean disappeared into his room. Haley hovered in the living room for a while like she expected an apology. When she didn't get one, she went upstairs. Her door stayed closed the rest of the day. Laura cooked nothing, said even less. No one asked me for an explanation, and I didn't offer one. The next morning, I found the watch by the front door. The one I gave Haley when she turned 13. Matte steel, not expensive but clean. I had it engraved. Time gives back what we give to it. She used to wear it every day. Now it sat face down in the dust. The band curled like a dead insect. I left it there, stepped over it each time I walked through the foyer, watched how no one moved it, like we all agreed it wasn't worth touching anymore. 2 days later, Laura finally spoke. "You could have told me," she said, standing by the sink. "I could have," I replied. She waited, expecting more. I didn't give it. "You're punishing her," she added. "No," I said. "I'm correcting her math." Haley thought she could bankrupt me emotionally and keep the credit line open. She thought I'd eat insult after insult and still show up at the gate with a warm smile and a boarding pass. She miscalculated. I gave her the benefit of the doubt for too long. I told myself she was a kid, that her bitterness wasn't personal, that one day she'd look back and understand. But understanding doesn't come to those who never had to earn it. Haley's never worked a day, never heard a no without a backup plan. She floats on expectation and crashes when consequence shows up. Well, consequence landed. Right there at the terminal. I left for the cabin that weekend. Packed my bag in silence. Took my truck. Didn't say goodbye. Laura watched from the kitchen as I loaded the cooler. She didn't stop me. Didn't ask when I'd be back. Didn't even ask where I was going. Fine. Let her figure it out. Let all of them sit in the quiet and wonder if the man they took for granted had finally decided to stop being furniture. Out at the cabin, the first night was pure noise. Not from the woods, from my head. All those years of being talked around. All the times Laura let her daughter ice me out, laugh at my rules, belittle the effort. All the birthdays where I wasn't in the pictures. All the parent-teacher nights where I sat in the back like a stand-in. I remembered the night Haley got the internship. She was glowing. I'd printed the acceptance letter, framed it. She rolled her eyes and called it corny. Never thanked me for the application fee, the letters of recommendation I chased down from colleagues, the late-night edits on her resume. She thanked Laura. Of course she did. The next morning, I sat by the fire pit with black coffee and watched the fog lift off the valley. I breathed like I hadn't in years. No texts, no calls, no alarms. I'd been a shadow in that house, moving around quietly, fixing what broke, pretending silence meant peace. But shadows are formed when something stands between you and the light. I finally stepped out. I didn't think Haley would call. I didn't think she'd apologize. She was too proud. Too much like the man who left before I arrived. The ghost they all kept alive in little ways. Comparing me to him, saying how I wasn't the same, how he'd understand. Maybe he would have. Or maybe he would have left like I should have years ago. The difference is I stayed. Until I didn't. The house had no sound anymore. No arguing. No laughter. Just that quiet, hollow space you hear when everyone's pretending not to notice the shift. Sean walked around me like I was a loaded weapon. Haley barely left her room. Laura moved like her bones were heavier than they used to be. Slow, cautious. Like she knew anything she said might shatter the last bit of balance we had left. I came back from the cabin on a Thursday. Early evening. The porch light was off. No one was waiting. I unlocked the door, dropped my bag, and stood there for a while, just listening. Nothing. I walked into the kitchen. The table was bare. No dinner waiting, no passive-aggressive sticky notes with reheating instructions. Just an open bottle of red wine and 2 glasses, both half full, both abandoned. Laura must have had company. Probably her sister. The one who always told her I was too traditional. The one who said, "He acts like he owns the place." As if I didn't. Haley was upstairs. I heard the muffled thump of her playlist. Not loud, just present. A reminder that she was alive, that she still occupied a space I paid for. She didn't come down. Didn't peek her head out to see if I'd come home early. No hug. No apology. Nothing. Fine. I sat at the kitchen table, pulled out my checkbook, and I began subtracting myself. No more grocery funds for her vegan smoothies and imported skincare. No more monthly Apple Pay deposits to cover bus fare. She had a bike. She had feet. Let her use them. I logged into the phone plan account, took her off it, canceled her Spotify, her Netflix profile, her damn meditation app. By the time I went to bed, she was digitally orphaned. Laura said nothing the next day. That Saturday, Sean asked if we could go to the batting cages, something we used to do twice a month. I said sure. We didn't talk much, but I saw the way he looked at me when I handed him the tokens. Like he was scared of being next. Like he thought love was now conditional. It never was, but respect always had been. Sunday afternoon, I found a text on my phone from an unknown number. Haley, that was cruel. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it hurt, because it was the first direct communication I'd had from her since the airport. I replied, "So was your sentence." She didn't text back. 3 days later, she knocked on the office door. That was new. I didn't invite her in, just waited. She opened it a crack and stood there. Arms crossed, eyes low, voice small. "I didn't think you'd actually cancel it," she said. I kept typing. She stepped inside, stood near the bookshelf like she was visiting a museum. "That program meant everything to me," she said. "And I meant nothing to you?" I said without turning. She flinched. I heard it more than saw it. The little breath pulled in too fast. "I didn't mean it that way. But you said it that way." Silence. I finally turned. She looked older. Not in a dramatic way. Just less invincible. "I don't know why I said it," she admitted. "It was stupid." "No, it was honest." She looked down at the floor, twisting the hem of her sweatshirt. "I was mad. Because I told you to clean your room?" She didn't answer. "I asked you to treat this house and me with respect. You responded by spitting in my face. I didn't think you'd take it seriously. That broke something in me I didn't know was still holding on." "You think words don't matter unless they get you what you want?" I asked, standing. "You thought I was just going to take it? Like always?" She looked up then. Really looked. Eyes glassy but dry. "I thought you were the adult," she whispered. "I was," I said. "For 8 years. I was the adult when I patched your walls after tantrums, when I stayed up holding a cold compress to your head after your first hangover. I was the adult when your father missed birthdays and you cried into my shirt. But adults have limits. And I reached mine the moment you told me I wasn't one." Her mouth opened, closed. She didn't apologize. But she didn't defend herself either. She just stood there, raw and quiet. And in that silence, something shifted. Not a reconciliation. Not even remorse. But recognition. She left the room. Closed the door gently. Later that night, I found her watch, the one she'd discarded, placed back on the foyer table. Not hidden. Not dramatized. Just placed. I didn't move it. Let it sit there for a week. Wednesday morning, I found a $20 bill in an envelope on the kitchen counter. No name. Just a sticky note inside. "For gas. I'm not asking. Just doing what I can." It wasn't much, but it was the first real offering. I left the money in the drawer, kept the note, not as forgiveness, as evidence. Sean started talking to me again. Short stuff. "Can I borrow the drill? Do you know where the duct tape went?" But it was real. Laura remained silent, but her silence had a new edge to it now. Not indifference. Guilt. She asked once, late at night, if I planned to stay. I looked at her over the rim of my glass. "Do you?" She didn't answer. The next day, she made dinner. First time in weeks. Sat down across from me like she used to. Haley stayed in her room. Sean said grace without prompting. It wasn't healing. It was acknowledgement. And maybe that's all that was ever possible. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing no one tells you about change. You expect fireworks, grand apologies, redemption arcs. But most of it arrives in fragments. Quiet gestures in the shadow of everything that came before. Haley got a job. I didn't hear it from her. Of course not. Sean mentioned it at dinner one night, casual as a weather report. "Haley's working at the strip mall now," he said, chewing with the distracted hunger of a teenage boy. Some clothing store. I nodded but didn't react. Inside, I was already rewinding every conversation we hadn't had, trying to match this new piece of information with the girl I'd known. A week earlier, she was screaming that I wasn't her father. Now she was standing at a cash register, folding jeans for minimum wage. I didn't ask questions, didn't tell Laura, just waited. That weekend I woke up early. Old habit. Grabbed coffee, stepped into the hallway, and there she was, Haley, crouched by the baseboards with a mop bucket, scrubbing. No music, no audience, just quiet work. She didn't see me. She was cleaning the hallway floor. That floor had been scuffed for months. I'd noticed it back in spring. A trail of black streaks from her boots, a smear of something unidentifiable near the stairs. I pointed it out 3 times. She'd rolled her eyes each time. Now here she was, alone, cleaning it. I backed away before she spotted me, went to the garage and sat in my truck, staring at the dashboard like it had answers. My hands shook a little. Later that day, I found an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside, a crumpled 20, and a note, folded twice. For gas. I'm not asking, just doing what I can. No signature, no smiley face, just ink and money, effort, honest and unsentimental. I didn't take the 20. I left it where it was, tucked in the drawer beneath the takeout menus and expired coupons. But the note, I kept that, not out of sentiment, out of principle, because something had shifted. Not everything, not enough, but something. She didn't call me Dad. Not yet, probably not ever. But the contempt had quieted. And for the first time, her effort cost her something. That matters. That's what respect is, the willingness to give something that might never be returned. A week later, I overheard her talking to a friend on the phone. I was passing the hallway. Didn't mean to eavesdrop. The friend asked her something, a question about rides, maybe. And Haley replied, "My dad can take me. Not Tom. Not stepdad. Just Dad." She said it without thinking, like it had always been true. And then I heard the pause, that half second where she realized what she'd said. She didn't correct herself. Neither did I. I went out to the shed and pretended to look for a wrench. Spent 10 minutes with my hand pressed against the wall, just breathing. When Laura got home that evening, she stood in the doorway a long time before speaking. Just watched me fix a loose hinge on the kitchen cabinet, like she didn't know how to start. Eventually, she said, "She's trying." I kept working. "I know it's late," she added. "It is," I said. "But not too late, maybe?" I set the screwdriver down and met her eyes. "I don't want to reset, Laura. I want a return on investment." She flinched, softly, but didn't look away. For years, I had poured myself into that house, into her kids, into every holiday, every hospital visit, every school event. I'd stood outside in the rain fixing a gutter while they watched movies inside. I'd skipped vacations to make sure Sean could go to camp. I'd driven 2 hours to pick Haley up from a concert she snuck out to, never told Laura. And what did it buy me? Mockery, dismissal, a door slammed in my face and a sentence that still echoed. "You're just a paycheck in the way." Well, not anymore. Now I was the absence they felt, the silence that made them squirm, the broken chain in their system of unearned comfort. And slowly that absence had begun to teach. That weekend I grilled steaks. Sean helped me season them. Laura made potato salad. Haley came down, eyes wary, but she sat at the table. No one said much, but they ate. I noticed Haley refilled my drink without asking. Not performative, not desperate, just quiet. After dinner, she cleared the plates. She didn't speak to me, but she didn't walk away either. Later that night, I found another envelope. This one had 5 singles and a receipt, her own gas station trip. Scribbled on the back, "Used the 20 for this. Thanks for not cashing it." I stared at that note for a long time. It wasn't gratitude. It was recognition. And that was more than I'd ever asked for.